Da 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 da. What's my good chair? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I was outside for a little bit today, early in the morning, too. And it was really nice. It really did feel like I had the city for myself. Everything was so quiet, nobody was walking around. And I don't normally do that unless I'm out camping, right? If I'm out on the road, I am out bright and early. As soon as that sun is peeking over the horizon, I am up. But for the most part, when I'm at home, unless I have an appointment early in the morning, and that's very rarely, like I normally will even set my appointments out for later on in the day. But I think, I should do it more often because it was really quite lovely getting up this morning, going for a walk, going to the grocery store, going to the drugstore. And I just took my time walking home, going slow. I live in a neighborhood where it's one of those like Greenwich villages, kind of. Actually, we are actually called Osborne Village, but it's kind of like Greenwich Village, and lots of little bars and coffee shops and little boutiques and stuff. And it is a really beautiful little neighborhood. It warms my heart quite often, because there's a lot of seniors who live in this neighborhood because it's kind of central to grocery stores and the hairdressers and doctors and things that they need, and they set up the housing, I think, specifically to make it convenient for the senior citizens, right? But it's always wonderful because the younger generation are so considerate in this neighborhood. So many times I would seen people that you'd be afraid to walk by on the sidewalk holding groceries in little old ladies' arms as they're walking across the street. It's actually quite beautiful in all fact. Things change, things are always changing. And I think for most of us, we're kind of getting, it's kind of sad that we're getting used to it though. The homeless, the people who are down and out and who are living on the streets, the people who do those drugs that make them hunch over and space out. That is so unsettling. I'm not going to say scary because, again, we are getting used to it, right? It's becoming the norm. And if you were to see some of these things that go on in our neighborhoods, today in this day and age, like say 30 or 40 years ago, I think a lot of us would think we were in Armageddon. I know I would because I was never truly naive, right? I had confidence in myself. My problem was other people didn't have confidence in me. And when other people didn't have confidence in me, I took a hit in that, right? I took a hit in that. But it didn't mean that in my mind I wasn't having conversations with myself. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Tammy. And talking about having conversations with myself, I just got out of the shower. I was in the shower. And when I'm in the shower, I usually take that as an opportunity to do my gratefuls, to kind of take a look about the little serendipities, the little breadcrumbs, the little miracles and gifts that come into my life. And I always try and make a point of saying my gratefuls because quite often things come into your life these understandings, or like I said, physicality, the gifts come into our lives. And they come in the most opportune, the most needed time that we just are on it, right? We're resolving issues, we're paying bills, we're off shopping, we're treating family, we're right, we are taking care of things. And so it might seem even ungrateful. Now I try, right? And quite often I recognize when miracles come into my life, right? When I need groceries in the cupboard, and when, oh my goodness, I don't get any money for a couple of weeks, and I'll go, can I sell something, please? And then all of a sudden, like I did yesterday, sell a garden pot and sell an ornament. And then off I went, and I was able to buy all the things that I needed to tie me over until the end of the month. Not the end of this month. This is the beginning of the month. But I did really good with my money. I tried really hard not to be frivolous. I bought a summer top. That was kind of the feel good gift that I bought for myself. It was a little tank top, right? That I have a pair of shorts, a certain color, and it matched, and it was only $2.99, right? And it's a feels of good for me because these are charities that I'm contributing to when I'm buying. Not like I needed all new clothes, right? In all reality, I didn't. But, right, I did buy myself a really cute top, and I'm looking forward to it. We're still not quite in that weather yet. I don't know how it's going in Michigan there, Tammy. If you want to let me know how the weather is in Michigan. Yeah, but here we're just slow to move into spring. Oh my goodness, we were in spring for 2 months already. Last year, the snow was all gone by the beginning of March. By the end of March, the weather was warm enough to wear shorts and t-shirts. Oh, you got freeze warnings for tonight, Tammy. Oh my goodness, freeze warnings. Should take a look. I haven't taken a look at my weather channel for today. I think it's supposed to warm up a little bit. 12 Celsius. So not quite room temperature, but it was a whole lot nicer today. The low was -4 and the high was 6 degrees today. I didn't go out today other than to go for my little walk in the morning, which I totally enjoyed. But back to this little story, because it was a little serendipity. It was a little gift, not the physicality of it, though it did change me in the moment and it did remind me. But I did get into the shower and I turned on the water, and I just loved the water. Water is so good for us, right? And I just let that shower head just spill on to me, and I just revel in it for 10 minutes, right? And then I get on my cozies for the night and get ready for my live show. But I was doing my gratefuls, right? Thank you. Thank you for helping me sell those couple of items yesterday. It's so much appreciated. I put the money to good use. I put groceries in the cupboard, and I got myself a pretty blouse. Right? And then you go into right away, oh, but I need this and this and this. And if you can, make it so I sell some more things in the next couple of days, that would be much appreciated. I've been practicing talking out loud. It's never something that I felt comfortable in. But I think we live in a day and age now where we should feel a little bit more comfortable with talking to ourselves, even when we're like walking down the sidewalks and stuff, because it's just the norm. People just think you got your earbuds in and you're just talking to friends or family on the phone, right? And that's the day and age that we live in. So it doesn't make it singularly odd, right? It doesn't, you don't, there's no need for us to feel odd in that. And right from the very beginning, in waking up to some of these ideas, it has been stressed on me to vocally talk, but also at the same time, it's a little bit nervousness in that and writing my notes. I have no problems writing down the lessons, writing down important topics and things that I want to research and delve into deeper. But those things about me, right? Those deep things, those things that if anybody knew, I always felt that it would be used as a weapon against me. And this is the way that I feel about expressing myself verbally too. That, in even though I'm in my apartment by myself, I don't really feel that we are ever truly alone, right? That there are angels and beings and who knows in the background, just like when I said thank you for helping me, right, in selling an ornament and selling a garden pot yesterday, that it, right, it was much appreciated. But that was because I expressed it vocally, and it manifested for me. Well, how did that manifest unless something or someone heard that prayer out there, right? Because it is like a prayer, right? They're like ask, they're prayers asking for things, right? And so it just compounds that idea. Well, if I express myself in having these conversations with myself, will that be used against me? And then I thought to myself, oh my goodness, Cindy, why are you worrying about these silly things about expressing yourself in the shower, doing your thank yous and doing your little prayers and your asks, right? And talking about, right? I'm practicing talking about my emotions and where I'm getting things wrong and where I would like to see myself in the future and stuff. And then I thought to myself, you're such a silly girl, Cindy. You're worried about talking to yourself in the shower. You're worried or walking down the sidewalk and then expressing yourself. And yet you come in every night, and you spew it. And I went, oh my goodness. Like, that is so true, right? That is, and it was just like a little revelations because I don't hold back, right? I express myself as honestly and as openly as the conversation is asking for. And so it just makes me say, Cindy, you're such a silly girl. You're such a silly girl. And so, I'm in the shower and I'm doing what I'm calling as prayers. I'm having a conversation with myself. I'm expressing my situations and where I would like to be and asking for a little bit of clarity in my life and a little bit of resolution. And, I was actually talking about, being the example for my family, for my sisters. And right, they're polite and they are tolerant, but they're not interested in what I'm doing. They're not interested in my insights in any way. And I'm not hurt by that because I understand that each one of us gets to make our own decisions and take our own actions and is responsible for our own emotions, right? That we get to make those choices, each one of us individually. But you guys know that I want to be the example for others. And if I can't even be the example for my sisters, how can I be the example for anybody else? This is what I'm having a conversation about as I'm having a shower, right? I get out of the shower and I'm drying myself off. And when I'm piddling around the house, I turn the volume up of my computer a little bit, especially when I got the air conditioner on and stuff. And blasting away in the background, like, is all the answers to the questions that I was asking in the shower, right? And the idea is just to be myself, just to be a good sister, to be a good friend, to be consistent in showing up here in the conversations that I'm having and being able to be willing to be stretchy, right? That I didn't know I was going to talk about this when I hit that live button tonight, right? But that came through. And in that itself is also kind of a compounded permission that it's okay, because even if I'm not the examples to my sisters in this moment, that doesn't mean somewheres down the road that I might not, or I might be that example for them, right? I always, and I was saying that too in the shower, that I always want things yesterday. Why can't I have a little bit of patience? And I'm in the shower, getting out of the shower, and I'm drying myself, and I'm getting dressed, and I'm brushing my hair and putting a fresh ponytail in, and in the background are all the answers in just one. Who am I listening to right now? I don't know if it would even be relevant into the conversation. Eye of Wisdom was what I was listening to, and it was all the answers to every single item of conversation, every prayer, every affirmation, every grateful that I put out there when I was in the shower for a span of only like 10 minutes, got out, and I'm getting blasted with answers immediately to all those questions that I had. That it's important for me at the very least to be that example for myself. And again, and compounded because I'm in the shower going, what am I going to do in my movement forward? Can I have a little bit of clarity as to what I'm supposed to be working on and stuff? And then at the very end, just before I was about to hit the live button on my live show here, I was just trying to finish up in this lesson that I had on my desktop. And right away, right, in talking about, right, don't wait, right? There are things that you need to do. Don't put them off. If you have questions or you're doubting yourself, don't do that. Move with it anyway. And I'm just like, I was just having this conversation with myself. So that is just confirmation that it works. And if it works for me, I'm going to assume that it works for everybody, because, again, I didn't have that 100% guaranteed belief that it worked. But when we talk about evidence, when we talk about serendipities and breadcrumbs and working with things that come across our path, that's a prime example. And why am I not compounded in my belief? It's because it's touching these other beliefs that if I'm expressing myself, that somebody will use that information against me. They'll hold it against me. And That comes from my childhood. That comes from my upbringing. That comes from those jobs that, that I had, that where people would look for things to agitate me purposely, or look for evidence so that they could move me along. And in a prime example of that, I'm going to tell this little story right now. I worked with a girl. She was woke too, right? She was woke too, to her own ideas. She loved Jesus. She believed in miracles. She knew COVID was coming. She had a dream that she was on a bus and everybody was wearing face masks, and she told her mother about this dream, and she says that's a premonition that something's coming. And she says, you be careful and you wear your face mask, right? There's right that you take care of your health. She didn't know what it was. And then COVID came, and we were all in face masks. And I remember her telling me that story, went, oh my goodness, right? And I knew it about her, right? She was a beautiful lady. She was an indigenous lady. She had issues. She was a compulsive gambler too, and I had just probably had quit gambling in past couple of years before her. And so I thought she had come into my life so I could be the example for her that she could quit. And she wanted to quit. She wanted to quit so badly. Like sometimes she would stay at the casino so late at night, because casinos are like 24 hours, that she would stay at the casinos all night, and then she would miss her shift because she was so tired she couldn't come into work. Or she would be so stressed out and so worried because she spent and gambled her rent money or her grocery money or her bill money. And but it didn't make her a bad person, right? Because I was that person, and I wasn't a bad person. I was just a person who had problems, and I would help her out, and I would, right, give her some money to tie her over till payday. And then sometimes she'd get herself in the same situation. I'd say, don't worry about it. Pay me next payday. And for the most part, she always paid me back, right? In the end, she kind of messed up. But, right, it wasn't because she was a bad person, right? And she was a hard worker. She was my sidekick. Me and her was such a good team. Like we kept that store clean, organized. She did the responsibilities that made her happy. And because I was in customer service, I took care of the customers. I ran the front of the store. I priced things because I was the expert in antiques and collectibles. I knew what they were worth, and I wanted to bring the company as much money as I possibly could, right? Because I was so grateful for that job. I was so grateful that they brought me on, right? And my friend, I won't say her name, but she loved cleaning and organizing and pricing clothes and putting clothes on the shelf. I thought all that stuff was boring, and she loved it. So have at her. I'm doing what I love. She's doing what she loves. As a team, we're getting the job done. And I loved her. I still love her, right? She was a beautiful person. And I was talking to one of the other ladies one time, and I was having difficulties with the manager, right? And again, like I've spoken to it about before, but jealousy and resentment are a really bad thing. And I could have been such a help for her too. But, right, she decided to take that interaction with me in a different direction. And again, we don't have any choice in other people's, right, decisions, right? That's their decisions. And so I remember talking to another lady and I says, oh my goodness, right? And this woman, this manager had been trying to get rid of me for a very long time, right? Very long time. But I used everything. And you can how do you get rid of somebody that I'm not going to say I was faultless. I was definitely not faultless, but I worked hard and they knew the ingredients that I brought to the table in the position that I was holding, right? And she kind of held a grudge because I didn't want to be her assistant manager. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, right? And I didn't even want to be full time. I just wanted to be part time, right? Because of this idea. I was creating the best life for myself as I possibly could. But with one of my other coworkers, I says, "Oh my goodness, I'll call this indigenous lady that I absolutely loved. I'll call her Jane, right? I'll call her Jane. That wasn't her name, but I'll call her Jane." I said to this other lady, I says, "Oh my goodness, if I didn't have Jane, I wouldn't be here. She saves the day. She is the best partner." And I knew she was screwing up, right? Like, right. But she'd always, from day one since she worked there, she was screwing up by sleeping in late and spending her bus fare money and stuff in the slot machines, hoping she'd hit the big one, right? And I remember saying to this other lady, I says, I wouldn't last a week, right? If they got rid of Jane. And because this woman couldn't get rid of me, she went at Jane. She went at Jane, and Jane didn't last. She lasted about 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and she was gone. And the joy of my job just went right down the toilet. They hired somebody who was incapable, like totally incapable, right? And I told them that this woman was incapable. And then after that, they decided they were going to make her the assistant manager. And I just like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? And that was it, right? They knew because they couldn't get to me, they got it somebody I cared for, that I loved, and I took responsibility for that because I knew that this woman had told her that information that I just said in just an offhanded conversation. As soon as I said that, right, I was woke up to some ideas already. I went, oh my goodness, I hope she doesn't say anything. And I think I even told her, don't say anything that I said that just keep that between me and you. But sure enough, she opened up her mouth and that was it. And Jane was gone. And she was a good friend. Oh my goodness, we go off together for walks. She'd come and visit me, and I didn't have any friends, right? Right? And we spent a lot of time together. We confided in each other. And I practiced my craft, of course, right? And she was a great recipient in that because she was in her own movement and she needed that direction, and I helped her out tremendously, but we did it in conversations because we were friends, right? And I was heartbroken when that happened. And, I tried not to be resentful in that, but I knew it was the end for me because I knew it could only go downhill from there. And I thought that was pretty low of somebody to try and get at me by making somebody else suffer in the life. And not only did they make her suffer in her life because now she doesn't even have a job and she's still gambling, right? So she's just digging her hole deeper and deeper and deeper. But she did that to the company. She did that to the company. She didn't care that the two best employees were about to walk out the door. She didn't care. She did it anyway, right? And so it just showed the lack of respect for even the company. And I would have stayed there. But in my lessons, I had already had the lesson that I'm not supposed to be around toxic people. And I gave my 2 weeks notice. And even when I tried to go for my employment, I didn't even tell him why I was leaving. I just said it just didn't work out for me anymore. So I was respectful in not being the right in that tit for tat, but it was so bad that I had to leave, and she didn't care about the company. And in fact, she didn't even care about her position in the job because she ended up having to work 10 times harder. And then the people that were there still, they were having difficulties in their own right. And so she didn't even care about anybody. Her only concern was to get rid of me. So going back into that conversation where I have difficulties in expressing these things live, and in just saying that right now, I'm doing it in my live shows. So where is the problem in me and having these conversations when I'm just out and about by myself? If anybody were to walk by me, they would just think I was talking on the phone, right? The headset or something like such a silly girl that I am. But that's the story that I wanted to express, and and it shows where I'm hesitant in speaking vocally loud, right? Like in real speaking, not just speaking in my head, but speaking in person, that I feel that what I put out there could be used against me because I don't know who's listening. But in the same token, if I'm not speaking it aloud, I wouldn't be selling my garden pots or my little ornaments on the shelf. I wouldn't be bringing that extra money into the household. Those gifts wouldn't be coming into my life. And not only getting out of the shower, drying myself, and having all the questions that I asked while I was in the shower, having all the answers being presented to me like an appetizer platter. And I was able to sit here and just laugh at myself, right? Laugh at myself. Still doesn't make me, right? Just even talking about it makes me feel bad, right? Because if I had kept my mouth shut, right, not said anything, they wouldn't have known to go after Jane, right? And and she would have still been there. And if she was there, I probably would have put up with it because I would have had my sidekick. I would have had my best friend in that company, right? That team player, that person that was holding me up, and I was holding them up at the same time. But the universe works the way that it works, and I have to trust in that too, because the universe knew that as long as Jane was there, I was going to be there too. So maybe it was right that says, okay, we're going to get Cindy to unzip that mouth and open it in a way that serendipities and things start moving, because I'm not moving myself, because I knew the universe didn't want me there, that my time there was done. Right? It was a great job and I absolutely loved it. I loved the community. I loved the people that I worked with for the most part. And it was an amazing job, and it served me so well. But at the same time, oh my goodness, in having this past year to really apply myself in what I'm doing, like I've become almost an expert in some of these categories that I really wanted to delve into. And I was making that movement. But when I was making that movement, a lot of my time was going to the job that was putting the roof over my head. So I didn't waste that opportunity, and I just doubled down in my lessons, and I brought myself to the point where I'm at right now. Okay, let's just come into the comments. So I just wanted to express that just as the evidence, you guys, just as some evidence for yourself, not to be afraid to express vocally, especially when you're by yourself, because when you're by yourself, you're more truthful, right? You're more open, right? And you don't have that in the back of your mind like I did, that somebody was listening in on the conversation and is going to use that information against you. That information is also used for you 100%. Okay, let's look at the comments. Um, That's great, Cindy, about talking out loud or to yourself out there. There isn't anything wrong about that. It might be therapeutic too. I believe that to be true also, Tammy. I believe in manifestations. And oh, Eugene is here, or he was here because Cindy was yapping and didn't notice. When I took speech class in college, this is from Tammy, our professor would tell us his students to stand in front of a mirror and talk out loud and practice speaking by looking into a mirror. He mentioned the shower. He mentioned the shower too, right? He mentioned the shower too. That's interesting. That's interesting. These are lessons that I've only just recently been practicing. I write every once in a while, I would say it vocally because it's been in the lessons since almost the very beginning. But I wasn't doing it as, and I'm not even going to say in this moment that I'm doing it religiously, but this is a lesson for me too, right? So I suspect that I'm going to do it a lot more than I have. But I've been practicing and I have been talking to myself, and I have always been talking to the trees, right? I put my hand on the trees and I talk to the trees and let them know spring is here. You're looking forward to your leaves coming out. How was your winter? I hope you managed okay. And I have a seedling across the street that's only about 5 feet 5 feet tall. I expect the tree, in the next 20 or 30 years will be 50 feet tall. But, as they pull them out, because we get Dutch elm disease in our trees, and as soon as they're spotted, they put a red fluorescent dot on the trunk, and then the city workers come by and they cut the tree down, because if they don't get cut the tree down, uh, the the bugs will move to the other trees and they can wipe out blocks and blocks of trees. Here in Winnipeg, they beautifully line the boulevards with trees. All the boulevards in the city have got beautiful trees on them. It's what we're known for. And but now they're not planting just elm trees. They used to just plant elm trees, and it was just so beautiful, the elm trees. But now they're doing ash trees and aspens and different types of trees, little spruce trees, right? Just to keep the streets lined with trees. But I do talk to the trees, and I'm going to make it a lesson, because it's part of the lesson for tonight, that I am going to do a little bit more practicing in actually physically talking to myself, right? Um, that's totally awesome, Cindy. I love your true story here. Right. I am a storyteller, but also a lot of the times the stories aren't truly just mine, right? They involve people that I care about, and because of the industry that I'm in, right? In building trust, people have got to know that if they're working with me, that these stories that we share with each other, that they'll just be with each other unless I have that permission, right? Unless I know that they won't mind me expressing. And I changed the names and I didn't say anything that wasn't true, and nothing that she wouldn't mind. Like, she would probably, if she was in my live right now, she would be kind of giggling and saying, right on, Cindy, right? 100% the truth. And she would love to be the example for somebody else, even in her own experience, right? That there are beautiful people out there that have problems. It doesn't make them any less beautiful, any less good, in the heart, right? We all make mistakes. Some of us make terrible, terrible, terrible mistakes, right? But some of us are also not deserving, are not good. And we know that, right? And in my own experience, I wanted to also show that there are people out there who don't mean well, that live in jealousy and resentment. And they're like the mean girls or the bullies out there, or people who go for revenge, which is totally, and that was another answer that I got today in just saying, Cindy, sending some good cheer out, get to your destination, be a false alarm. I live behind, I live behind a fire station, so they are always going through. They're always going through and going by. So I always send some good cheer, hoping that they'll move along, right? Hello, Tracy. Tracy's World. I like that. That's a great call name. I love that. Thank you for popping in. Eugene, right? Tammy, thank you, Tammy, so much. And yeah, so it's important to build trust, right? And so I have a lot of stories and a lot of interactions, and people who say that they want to come in and hang out with me in my lives and tell their stories. And some of these people have had really rough lives, and if you were to know them, you would think that maybe they were not even good people, but they are good people who have made mistakes, that have coping mechanisms that make them mess up, right? But they're not out there to hurt people, right? They're not looking to stomp on other people's heads in order to get themselves ahead a little bit, right? And if they did do that, it would be out of survival, right? You know, and not coming in and making it so I have to work by myself, which she did all the time. She did that. But because she was my friend, right? I did it. And I did it without complaining to anybody, right? Until I saw her and I'd let her know, like, that wasn't very nice of you. I had to work all by myself. You know how hard that was? And then she would just work doubly hard, for the next few days. She was always a hard worker when she was around, right? I absolutely loved her. Even in the things that she messed up in my own life, I wouldn't have given her up for a moment, right? She was a beautiful lady. And like I said, she was woke to her own ideas, but she loved Jesus, right? And it was really funny because I attract so many Christians, right? And caregivers hang out with me, and I think, like, how can I be so deserving of that? But I'm always honest in that, and it's not because I don't believe that there is something bigger than me, that there is something or someone, possibly even Jesus, but because I don't resonate with that because of my own experiences, my own life, that I am an agnostic, and not even a true agnostic, because, like I said, I know there is something or someone out there, but I can't put a label on it. It hasn't been revealed to me yet. That's not to say that it will never be revealed to me, but in the moment, it hasn't been revealed to me. And so it makes me curious because I was always honest with my Christian friends that I wasn't Christian, right? And they loved me, and they appreciated me, and they welcomed me, and they considered me a friend anyway. And I think that is so beautiful. And I would take 100 Christians like my friend Jane, right? Than one true Christian who is a bigot, who is righteous, who would put others down and step on their hands and their heads in order to get themselves further ahead in intent, not by accident, right? Because, like I said, we all make mistakes. We all mess up. And that's the truth, right? And we have to feel for ourselves who we can surround ourselves, and you know who we can just maybe keep one step or two steps aside and learn to, right? So they don't use that information against us or against the people that we care about, because they know they can't get at us. So they go at the people that we care about. Uh, this is great therapy, honestly. Even just talking about your problems to two or three people can help tremendously. This is awesome. Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate that you say that. That's the whole idea, though, in making sure that I'm using myself in my experiences as the example for others, because people do have to understand, because they beat themselves up when they misstep, when they make mistakes, when they know they've done something wrong. But, when we do something wrong, sometimes all it takes is an apology, or going into work and working doubly hard to show somebody, because lots of us can't say I'm sorry. I say sorry lots, but lots of people, nobody in my family says sorry like I say sorry. I say sorry all the time. I never once in my entire life ever heard my mother or my father ever say I'm sorry. And that's the truth. And that was heartbreaking. And there were lots of times that I'm sorry would have been just like kissing a boo boo, right? And I believe it's important that we all practice apologizing. It's just not because I'm Canadian, right? They even had to put a real law into the law books to say that you can't use the fact that somebody said sorry when you got in a car accident or they hurt you in some way as evidence against them, because we're just Canadians. We just naturally apologize, even when it's not our fault, right? Um, Tammy says, I know this one lady that is toxic and she's trying to be around me and cause trouble, right? Because she's looking for ammo, right? She's looking for something that she can use against you, right? I am praying for her. Oh, right? I wish I could do that. I avoid is what I do. I recognize these people. I say all the time, two or three people out of 10 people are really not going to like you. They're not going to like you, right? But two out of those three people are going to know to keep their mouth shut. They're going to know not to mess with you, right? They'll be civil. You know these people, right? You know they don't like you, but they don't say anything mean. They don't pick on you. Every once in a while, they might second that to somebody who will say something. But one of those three people will try and antagonize you. And that's because they are one of those people. They are one of those people that will step on somebody else's head, that will use your conversations as ammo, that truly do not mean you well. But if you look at it, that's only one out of 10 people, and then maybe two other people who really don't care for you, but they won't cause you any problems as long as you don't cause them any problems. But that one person, right? It's like that song, one bad apple can ruin a whole bunch more, right? That was the Jackson Five, I think. Was that Jackson Five, or was that the Osmond Brothers? I can't remember. One bad apple. I think it was the Osmond Brothers, because I'm thinking of, they had a cartoon show on Saturday afternoons when I was a kid, and I think that was the jingle for the song. But yeah, just remember that though, right? 1 out of 10 people. And if you can avoid that one person out of those 10 people, if you work in hospitality and or work with in retail, of course, you're going to have more of those people. But as customers, it might be only 1 out of 20 people who would say anything mean to you, right? But you'll know that person because that's the person who's going to phone head office and tell them how mean and rude and what terrible service they got and everything and how dirty the store was. And not because any of that happened, but only because you don't rub them well, because they are from the other side, right? They are somebody that whoever, right, or whatever is saying, right, these are the people that you're supposed to be avoiding, right? And even if you think that in the end, right, that a little prayer would help them, I don't think a little prayer would help them. I think a prayer would be like The Exorcist, or throwing the cross in their face, or the Wizard of Oz when you throw the pail of water on the Wicked Witch and she goes, she melts and turns into mush onto the ground, right? She's one of those, or he's one of those. I think that's a good analogy to work at it. 1 out of 10 people, we can deal with that, right? And maybe it'll come, in the next stage of evolution that God recognizes that 1 out of 10 person. They'll say, okay, we're wiping out of the 1 out of 10s. We're just keeping those two people out of the 10 people, and we're going to give them another shot, right? They know to keep their mouths shut. Sometimes it starts with tolerance, right? Sometimes it starts with tolerance until we can get to acceptance, right? And then it comes to welcoming. So God will say, okay, we're getting rid of that 1 out of 10. They're not coming back. That bloodline is gone. They're causing too many problems, right? But those two, right? And in relationship to those two, you could call them possibly the flying monkeys, or the ones that do the I second that, or the ones that kind of talk behind your back every once in a while, or will agree when somebody says something bad, but to your face, right? Right? It's like that. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, right? You can deal with those because they're the ones that possibly you could throw a prayer at and it might stick, right? Because God's going to give them another chance. I had a lady at work, right? She was one of the flying monkeys, but she was also a beautiful lady on her own journey. But she got stuck between a rock and a hard place, and she had to make a choice because her job depended on it, right? And so she got wrangled, right? Even my sister, one of my sisters, got wrangled into that, into being my mother's, right? I'll second that. And that's sad. It happens. And my sister's a beautiful person. She's a beautiful person, and she doesn't recognize that. And that's why it hurts me that she's tolerant. Like I said, sometimes we start with tolerance before we can get to acceptance. And then once we get to acceptance, right, at some point we will get to welcoming, right? You just have to look back into the 50s when that first little black lady, right, in segregation, and she got on that bus with the little mean white girls, and she just did it. And then eventually it was just tolerated. And then it was accepted, and now it's welcoming, and we are getting over prejudice that way. Like, it's absolutely beautiful. Like, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and the names that we would call to anybody that didn't look like us, meaning the same skin color, it was terrible. But you don't hear that anymore. You'd get arrested. You'd get sent to the president or principal's office, wouldn't you? You would lose your job, right? And that just proves that this world is getting better, right? This world is getting better. Okay. She is a great start, Cindy. Way to go there. Keep it up. Aw. This is I talk to trees too, Cindy, and to plants and birds and etc. Oh, talk about the birds. Oh my goodness. Hello, Jess. Hello, welcome, welcome. You have a question for me. Oh, I love the questions. Okay. Hope it's a good question. I need some advice, please. Um, Ask the question, Jess. If you have a question, you don't mind asking it here, go ahead and ask the question. If you want to message me in private, right? My email is down below, right? We can have a little chit chat if you want, 100%. And yeah, welcome, welcome. It's nice to have you pop in here. Oh, let's get back to the conversation though until I can see whether or not a question's going to pop up. But definitely, definitely ask questions, right? It doesn't get to happen very often. And I love practicing my craft. I do love practicing my craft. About, oh, I would have to say almost a year ago, I had decided that give me a sign, and I chose the sign myself. I said, I want two, not one, but I want two birds to fly really close to my window, like no more than like 6 feet, right? By my window, and that will be a sign that something magnificent was going to happen. That was like a year ago. So every once in a while, I get birds that fly by my window, but not like 6 feet by my window. Never, ever, not even close. And I'm always looking for the birds coming by my window. Was it this morning? No, it was yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, I had two great big chubby, not just birds, two geese fly together across my window. And I went, oh my goodness, I haven't seen this happen in like a year. That's when I said that I want that sign, right? And that was the sign that I chose. And not only did I get two birds, I got these two great big chunky geese fly right by my window. And I was just, oh, that was so beautiful. Then 5 minutes later, you guys, 5 minutes later, two seagulls, I think they were seagulls, they were like white birds, they could have been pigeons, right? Went by my window, close by my window too. And I went, oh my goodness, I haven't seen this happen all year. And then 5 minutes from each other, right? It was just like a double confirmation. It was like the stamp, right? It was just like, if you didn't catch the geese, you should catch the geese because they were pretty much the size of my window, flew right by my window. So I got that confirmation. But the funny thing is, I didn't ask for what the confirmation was going to be for. Just that I want confirmation that something big was going to happen. So I don't know what the big thing is that's going to happen, but something big in my life. I am, right? I'm pretty certain something big is going to happen real soon. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a pretty cool sign. Like a whole year, I waited for those two birds. And I see birds go flying by my window all the time, but not like 6 feet from my window, and that was the deal. It had to be close. So lots of times I'd see the birds go by my window. I go, oh, that was pretty close, but that was like 10 feet away. That was like 20 feet away. That doesn't count. That doesn't count, right? And they had to be a pair, right? They had to be a pair. But 5 minutes apart, they were two pairs and two different sets of birds, too. So that I thought that was pretty cool, right? But yes, you know what? Uh, just message me. My email is down below, dear. If you want to ask a question, you can also get me on Instagram if you want to go live with me and have a conversation and go live with me. Just message me through Instagram on Messenger, and you can find me on Instagram. I have thousands of followers on Facebook. I do. But I never go onto Facebook except into my marketplace. So don't contact me through Facebook because I don't really have even notifications on except for my marketplace. But if you go to Instagram, you can message me and I will pick that up right away. And if you want to do a Zoom call or if you just want to ask my question, however you want to do it, I am open for that. Okay, you guys. I hope it's something big and I hope something good, right? Because I just said I just wanted a sign and I just wanted a sign of something big to happen. And I didn't say what it was because I just fly by my seat of my pants. I just keep moving forward and creating the best life for myself, right? As I possibly can, creating the best human being that I possibly can. And I felt that, whatever that big thing was, it would probably be meant to come into my life in the moment. Okay, you guys, let's pull a card. If you've never been into my lives before, 54 powerful words. They're powerful words. Sometimes, more often than not, the word is relevant to the conversation, but only because I touch on so many different topics during a conversation. We're just having a cup of coffee and having a chit chat, but the conversations are full of lessons at the same time, right? And also at the same time, Tammy is absolutely amazing. If I don't spot off by the corner of my eye, I try to come in and keep up with the messages. I don't always keep up in the messages. Um, uh, Tammy is there and she's an absolute sweetheart and she's on her own movement and she's a caregiver and she might have the answer for you if I I don't catch that message myself. But like I said, you could message me. My email's down below, or you can catch me through Instagram, through Messenger on Instagram. Just message me, and we can do a Zoom call, or if you want to go live with me on Instagram, I'm open to that too, right? I used to do it every day on Instagram, right? That's where I practice this live show for two years before I brought it back. It started here on YouTube, then I moved it to Instagram to practice my craft. And when I thought that I was ready, and I wasn't truly ready, but I was ready as I was ever going to get, and then I brought it over here to YouTube, and I've been here ever since. And I'm going to be here until I'm 80 years old, 114 if I can, because that's the age I'm aiming for is 114 years old. Okay, you guys, here we go. Let's grab a card. We're going to go into it for a few minutes. Maybe two big and two good things will oh, double the fun. Oh, you're right, Tammy. You're right. Double the fun. That would be awesome. Okay, you guys, let's grab a card and just go into it for a few minutes and then we'll call it a night. I will be back. I will be back tomorrow and then I take Saturdays off. I'm going for a bike ride on Saturday, but I will be back Sunday night with Chatters Live. It's a great live show. I do it every Sunday. I've been doing that live show for at least 8 years now, at least maybe 9 or 10 years even. I've been doing it for a very long time. But I have a great crew over there. They chat more than I do. That's why I call it Chatters Live. Choices. Like I said, sometimes it's relevant in the conversations that we have, right? Choices without action will not bring about change. And that isn't always necessarily true because remember what I was talking about getting out of the shower today and having all my answers to all the questions I had asked when I was in the shower. One of those questions was that we have to create change for ourselves. And that change is created through the choices that we make, but we have to take action in the choices we make. We can't just say, one day I would love to do that. Well, if one day you would love to do that, what can you do right this moment to get that started? Do you have a notebook on your desk at all times that you could start making notes? Can you make a phone call? Can you have a conversation? Can you check out pricing? Right? What is it that you want to bring into your life? Right? And then you have to move in that. Choices without action will not bring about change. Okay, but back to me when I came out of the shower, right? And it said, we have to make those choices. We have to take that action for ourselves because if you don't take that action, change might come, right? Might come. But we were talking about this yesterday, Tammy, weren't we? But it might be painful because we didn't make that movement ourselves. We didn't make that little bit of action. And maybe we're going to get a 360 in our life, which is just going to just throw us for a loop, or we're going to get a 180 and it's going to just take us to the opposite end in a place that we've never been to before. And we're just going to be totally confused. But if you make that choice and take that little bit of action, and this is a lesson for myself too. I'm working on my website tomorrow. No ifs, ands, or buts. I haven't worked on my website for 2 days now. Tomorrow, I promise. When I come in live, Tammy, you ask me if I worked on my website, and I will be accountable to myself if I didn't work on my website tomorrow. Right? Because it's that idea that you make your choices, set your goals. If you have a dream, if there's a conversation that you want to have, if there's something you want to do, what can you do in this moment to get that ball rolling? Right? Sitting up top of the hill, starts rolling down the hill and just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until at some point you don't have to take that action because it's just like a motor. It's just running on its own. Okay, you guys, that's my good chair, and we'll see you tomorrow night. And like I said, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to spew the questions in the comments, in the chats right here, or you can contact me. My email's down below, or you can message me through Instagram, and I will pick it up right away. And I'll actually go in and see if there's anything for me right now before I start moving into other things that will move me forward a little bit before I go and call it a night, you guys. Everybody, have a great night. Thank you so much for coming into my live, and we'll see you tomorrow.